Not the most popular topic, hey, trailers? Anybody in the hall making a trailer right now for that game? 1, 2, 3. Oh, so you're gonna relate to the pain, right? Because it's gonna be a lot about pain. So, I am Ksenia. I'm Ksenia Koster. I live in Amsterdam, and I'm a marketing freelancer. I call myself a marketing mercenary because publishers hire me to do the heavy lifting of performance marketing. These are some of the games that I was lucky to work on in the last years. I've been working on PC and consoles, that's my favorite. I've been doing a lot of mobile and VR as well, and was focusing on VR in the last year. And my personal deepest skill set has to do with performance marketing. So I make paid ads for PC and console games. Basically, it means that I take a marketing budget, anything from $2,000 to $100,000, I put it into Facebook's, Google's, and TikTok, you name it, any platform. Then I do a bit of alchemy, I brew it, and voila, dollars turn into wish lists or sold copies. That's what I do. But today, my rant is about trailers, and I hate them. I hate video game trailers, because as a viewer, I personally find that they are boring. There's not enough message for the length that they are. As a gamer, I try to remember last game that I bought because the trailer was cool. Well, no, I have friends. Friends tell me which games we're gonna play. I just go on the store page, hit the purchase button. It doesn't impact my decision at all. And then, as a professional, I think the process that we've built for trailer making in our industry is one of the worst we've made so far. I see it so many times that the studio and the publisher gather together, everybody wastes their time, everybody's trying to make the trailer great, then the result is mediocre, nobody's happy, it's a compromise of everybody's opinion, and why did we even bother? Well, I'll explain why we bother. Reason number one, and that's the biggest one, we are forced by environment. Yesterday, if you were at the talk about how people choose games on Steam, indie games on Steam, they had a very good heat map of how Steam store attention span looks. Everything goes to the trailer. About 50% of time, people look at that trailer. So we do not have a choice. We must have a trailer, and it's valid for all the major platforms. The attention weight of a trailer is enormous. So this is the first impression that we make. And then there is a second reason that I personally like way more. It is because we are chasing an opportunity. After all, trailers are made so that people love our games and that our studios are rich and famous. And a trailer, a great trailer, is a very cost-efficient way of becoming rich and famous. There are following perks that you can gain with a trailer, right? And we all know those. That's winning attention. And in our market, in our economy, attention is worth the dollars. Second is improving sentiment, making those people really love what we're doing. Third, recruit advocates. It's so much easier for your advocates to say and share their hype for the upcoming game with their friends if there's a good trailer. Impulse buy, reputation, the list goes on. And honestly, these opportunities really outweigh the risks that come in with a bad trailer. And we all know those. It's maybe a bit of wasted resources, a bit of time and money wasted. There is sometimes a case of mismanaged expectations. That one is a bit worse. That is when the trailer presents an experience that is different from the game that the trailer is for. And finally, there is sometimes a complete missing the mark, and we make a bad first impression, which is not the end of the world, but it sadly happens very often. In general, the opportunity really outweighs the risk. So what I tell to myself, so Ksenia, it is okay that you hate trailers, but you cannot ignore them in your work. You're a marketing professional. You must make trailers. You must watch them. This is what I do. Then, second issue. I mentioned that I do paid ads, right? Usually, trailers is something that in PC and console world is given to brand managers, product marketing, sometimes game producer, but definitely not the paid ads people. But I have an idea for you. How about this one? Next time that you need an opinion, that you need feedback for your trailer draft, bring it to your paid ads person instead of bringing it to the focus group. And just let me explain why it's a good idea. I have made a diagram. It's a diagram about audience trust, how we build it, how we monetize it, how we market to build that trust. Let's imagine 3 players and how they learn about the game. So the dog learned it from a friend. A friend said it's a good game. They go and purchase the game. The bear learned it from her favorite YouTuber who made a review. She goes on Steam, buys the game. And then there's the frog. These are the guys that I bring. They click on paid ads on Facebook. Many of you don't. They do. And they can be anywhere from 10 to 40% of your sales. Well, of course you will always have the dogs and the bears, but the frogs, they're an opportunity too. Why miss out on them? Now let's imagine, out of 3 gamers that we see here, who actually watches a trailer? Who actually needs it? And I'll bet you this, the dog just pushes purchase because the dog is with his pack. The bear, well, we'll just check that it's exactly the game that the review was about. The frog is the worst, and I work with them. What they do is they go like, so, you got me on your store page. Impress me now. They watch the trailer like nobody else. This is why I, as a person who does paid ads, am super sensitive if your trailer is good or not, because my job hangs on it. My ROI hangs on it. And I'm very, very, very particular about how it needs to look. Now that I kind of explain why I care about the subject so much, let me talk about the 7 deadly sins, the stuff that I found works really horrible for your trailers and probably you should never do. And I'll start with my favorite one, vanity. I think anybody who worked on a trailer has seen this scene when the brand manager, they're making the trailer and they're bringing the version number 3 to the game producer. The producer strokes her chin, she counts something on her fingers, she rewinds it, she puts it forward back, and then she says something along these lines. Fun cut, cool music, where are 27 USPs that I mentioned? Well, look, sometimes I know that the game has 12 unique worlds, each with a beautiful biome and unrepeatable bosses, but that does not mean that all of them need to go to the trailer. The trailer isn't there to tickle our vanity. We need to focus on what's really important, what really sells. If we're talking about worlds, definitely no caves. Even if it's fun in the game, caves just look bad. I don't want them in my trailer. So the cure for this is first and foremost to define a USP list. Focus on what matters as a team. And honestly, there are 7 features tops. It never gets more than that. This is a good starter package that I always start from, and 90% of the games need just this. So first, limit who you're addressing by naming the platform and hardcoreness, especially important for VR, because it's confused with a mobile game every day. Then 2-3 genre keywords, and please remember that on Steam, when people choose their new game, they search by keywords. They need to recognize them. Those should be set in stone for your game. Then there's the setting, the world of your game, and this one, the looser you keep it for the creative team, the better. It's just a list of do's and don'ts and no real pinpointing of this and that. Characters, and last but definitely not least, the story arc. Like, what is this quest? Is it a traditional treasure quest? The gamer needs to immediately recognize what narrative they're introduced to. There is a lot of enjoyment in recognition, and we keep forgetting that, because the happiness of the user comes from recognizing, going, I've seen this somewhere. So, we're not making it to tickle our egos. We're making trailers to present features. And while you're at it, a little life hack, when you're pre-approving the USP list in pre-production, before the creative brief, also pre-approve the text plates that are going into the trailer, so that everybody agrees that we call our game a team-based shooter rather than a co-op adventure, for instance. These final text plates will save you a lot of time and many re-edits. Now, sin number 2. That's my favorite. Very stupid KPIs, but I will just start with the first one, especially people who do make trailers right now. You do have KPIs, right? With numbers for your trailer, what exactly you expect to make. Well, I believe that of course you do, but then I will be very self-centric here, and there will be 2 types. There will be KPIs that I like, and there will be KPIs that I don't like. And I'll start with what I don't like. Many trailers are made to show some form of reach, like 10 million or whatever. So what I don't like is when that reach is on own channels, like own YouTube or own Facebook. Well, that's not a good idea, because that channel of Triangle Factory has 2.5K subscribers and has 9,000 views. How many are paid? I don't care how many are paid, because the good KPI is reach on platform channels. Because the same trailer on MetaQuest channel, that was a VR game, got 39K views. And also look, you're immediately next to a competitor that got 12K views. And it already puts things into perspective, right? Are you doing a good job or not a good job? This is why reach on platform channels matters more. Now, a second type is conversion. Many trailers are measured if the conversion on the store page is good. The worst way of doing it is just taking all the traffic and going like, okay, it converts at 1%. I guess it's not really good. Please don't do that. Don't do combined traffic. Go for singled out type of traffic. There is specifically a huge difference in motivation and conversion of people who are paid versus people who are organic. And splitting those up, of course, in some platforms is a bit tough, but you can always do it. At least I find a way to split it even on Steam. And yeah, UTM tracking doesn't work, but there are ways. So now that we've covered conversion and reach, I will digress on one of my favorite topics, which is sentiment. Who thinks that sentiment is a good quality index for a trailer? Like, does it even matter? Because we know that haters are gonna hate, and, well, sometimes we have toxic communities, right? Sometimes we make first-person shooters. Our gamers don't like us. Well, let me tell you a true story. So once upon a time, in spring 2023, there were 2 ad campaigns. They had a beautiful video, they had some text, they were hanging on Instagram and Facebook, and they were advertising a new game. So one ad campaign, it was loved. People said that it's amazing, that they effing love it. Users actually tagged their friends under it and said that Kathleen definitely needs to show this to Zach, and they loved the voiceover, they loved the footage, everything was great. But I said there were 2 campaigns. The other campaign, the fate was a bit different for it. Users hated it. The sentiment was not great. They said that it looks bad. They wrote long comments on how the gaming market is not what it used to be. And then they also even they advertised the bad names. Well, it really hurt. It really hurt. And because I'm a seasoned marketer, before going like, oh yeah, we're turning this off because there's a bunch of haters under it, I go like, yeah, does it even matter? Yeah. Well, secondary KPIs were showing that the liked one was saved and shared. The not liked video wasn't saved or shared. Yep, makes sense. And trickling all the way down, when I looked at return on ad spend, actually the campaign that was loved was making us dollars. The campaign that was hated would never return on investment. But this is where the plot thickens. Because what if I told you that it was the same video? It was the same ad. everything was the same, except for target audience. One was interest-based targeting, and it was returning on investment pretty nicely. The other was a lookalike based on people who purchased the game. And it didn't work. Now look at the sentiment. It's not good to ignore the sentiment. Yeah, we should use it as a KPI, but we cannot please everybody. So yes, sentiment of target audience is a good KPI, while sentiment in general might not be one. So as long as you allow it as one of the KPIs, you can also think about what emotions you want to evoke with your trailer. So returning to the stupid KPIs, let's not make them. Let's design our KPIs, because KPIs are created to align teams on our goals. KPIs are a very easy way of understanding if we're hitting it or not hitting it on the business side. And let's just think one step further than reach of 10 million in general, or Martha, the CMO, loved it. Those are not KPIs. We need something that actually moves the needle for the business. Now, sin number 3 is ignoring the context, and I've got one more true story for you. So there was a Steam page for an indie game. I still crack up when I think about it. The trailer was all spooky. It was really scary, horror-like. There were glitches in the matrix. The music got tense. There was guitar with distortion. Big, scary antagonists were rising. And meanwhile, the description on the right literally said, in our hell of a horror game, you defeat the evil corporation that turns office workers into zombies. That was a quick spoiler. Like, how are you supposed to be afraid of something if you know that you're gonna even win? And I do understand it was early stage, it was before early access, so they just took their short description from their pitch deck, but please don't forget about that. Context awareness, it starts with good questions. Questions like, how are they gonna watch it? Is the screen big? Is it the TV? Is it a smartphone? Is it vertical? Is it square? Is the sound on? All of these are actually quite important, and as well, knowing if the user is logged in right now on their device, and what is the average attention span for that exact platform. And the cure is always to dig UX. I believe that we all should dig UX. We need to Google it, we need to research it, we need to watch people buy games, why they buy them, how they buy them, what they actually do, how many tabs they open while they do it. We need to test, we need to compare. The usual UX stuff. Heat maps, statistics, qualitative, quantitative. We cannot be data-driven without data. And that comes from digging UX. Well, apart from really stupid mistakes that happen with ignoring the context, there's also opportunity to be made. And that's, oh wait, I forgot to tell you about the life hacks. If you don't do it still, when you're doing a creative brief for the agency, already request a square and a vertical, because it's standard, and watch all of your videos without sound, because that is also standard. And second, please don't hate on text plates. Text plates there are not because they're not classy and it's an easy way to, explain stuff we can't explain visually. They're there because people don't have enough attention span to really read your visual story. So don't hate on them, use them. They actually show better results. Now, this is a funny funnel case. Everybody recognizes sales funnel, yeah, right? When I launch a campaign, that's what I expect. There will be impressions. Impressions will turn to clicks. Clicks will turn to installs. That was what I expected one day, a year ago, when I launched the campaign. And in a week, I came and I saw this. It was an accolades trailer, and the impressions went fine, installs went great, just no clicks happened. And I was really puzzled, like, what's going on? Like, did the installs come from somewhere else? No, like, clearly it was that campaign. So some 10 minutes research, and I found my answer. 96% of impressions for that campaign were shown on smart TVs, because usually I limit the devices, and here I didn't. I forgot. Sometimes happens. So those views, they were cheap, and the users turned out to be pretty good. They couldn't generate clicks because, well, you don't click with a remote when you're watching smart TV, but it was actually a perfect moment for sales, because when a person turns on YouTube on their smart TV, they're pretty much at leisure. Moreover, they're pretty much bored. It was a great moment to remind them that, hey, you like video games, huh? Try this one. This is why the conversion was really good. It was one of the best channels afterwards. So yes, do not ignore the context. Dig UX and think how you can use it in your benefit, because time again, the cost of the trailer is not what you do wrong. It's not about mistakes. It's about the opportunities that you have missed with it. Sin number 4, I promised to mention in this talk, like, what's expensive, what mistakes are expensive. This one is. Like, this one's got an anti-award every time. And it all starts with the wrong business process. Because let's look at this. That's how your creative director sees the trailer. There's a gripping start, there's a epic build-up, there's drum roll somewhere, a culmination, the trumpets play, there's a mind-blowing plot twist at second 40, grand finale with a pack shot that makes people immediately click wishlist. And then there's how viewers watch trailers. That curve is way less exciting, is it? Let me just zoom in on it for a second. 17%. 17% made it past 9 seconds. And that was a gameplay trailer. It was 1 minute long. And if any one of you loves this place in Google, sorry, this is the Facebook one, in Facebook where this curve is shown, you will also know that 17% on 9+ seconds is actually not bad. It's actually above average. That was working really fine. The thing is that the creative director never got to show the culmination, and the trumpet never played for the majority of people. Yeah, so it is a very sad and very predictable cure. Work hard. Spend most of your time on your first 10 seconds. Just make many versions. Try it with sound, try it without sound. And my personal favorite, show it with a person with heavy ADHD and count in seconds how long it takes for them to take out their smartphone. Because those, you can see their eyes fidget immediately the moment that they lose attention. Those 10 seconds are likely the only impression you're gonna make of the game. So put in the effort. Now, while we're at it, there is of course a question like, what about the rest 60 seconds? Why don't we just add videos of 10 seconds always? Never waste the time. Well, that's not what trailers are made for, right? Trailers are made to make people hyped. And my favorite option for this one, and this is for mid-core to hardcore games mostly, is tailor everything after the 10th second to hardcore fans. Let's imagine that you're making a game in a famous IP, Warhammer 40K, for example. There will be people who will be making popcorn and chilling the beers and inviting the friends and sitting around the TV to wait for your premiere on YouTube, because it's a famous IP. Cater to them. Their word of mouth is worth gold. Just cater to the hardcore ones that actually care what happens next. Well, I think Marvel movies that put the juicy, Easter egg after the credits showed us all how it's done. So this is more or less the idea. Now, let's talk about confusing the purpose. It's a pretty big one. Confusing the purpose of the trailer, why we make it. So while preparing for this talk, I asked ChatGPT, should I make a trailer for my game? Anyone ever asked that from generative AI? No? Yeah? Well, it was good? No, my sucked. Like, it was very bad advice. Like, very generic, nothing special, except for one thing. One thing was smart, because it reminded me that trailers help gamers to make informed decisions about their purchase. Time again, we're not making the trailer to summarize our game like it's a magnum opus that needs a movie about it. purpose of the trailer is to serve the player. Now think about a player on your store page, right? On a Steam page, for instance. What do you want them to do? What is the desired action at this moment from you to the player? Yeah, it's to hit that green purchase button. It's not towards the trailer. The last thing you want is them to sit back like this and go like, well, it kind of started excited, but after 2 minutes, I'm not sure on my purchase here. No, the quicker they stop watching the trailer and start playing your game, the better. The purpose of the trailer is to serve their decision. So my cure for this is to follow the dopamine. If you, at some point, forget what is the purpose of this exact piece of footage, or this frame, or this cutscene over here, I have a universal answer for you. Just look at this and think that a good trailer triggers dopamine release. Dopamine makes people do things like click buy, or click wishlist, or tell their friends about you, or even remember your game. It all starts with the feeling of excitement, with dopamine. We're entertainers, after all. We have one job: to keep people having fun, to entertain them. So please be efficient and communicate clearly, and check every part of the trailer that you have for, does it create emotional value for my viewer? Is there dopamine made there? Are they digging it? No, you don't get the feeling that it's gonna be good? Then chop it, remove it, edit it out, and find something better, something that does excite. And I have, for an illustration, I took stills from 2 store page trailers of pretty good games in neighboring genres. One's Ksenia, and you can see that there's like a farm somewhere in space, and there's they even actually baked subtitles into the trailer to make sure that everybody's getting on board with the narrative. Welcome on board the Tiken, property of Dulles Aerospace Engineering Corporation. Okay. This is Crusader Kings 3. Both stills are from somewhere in the beginning of the trailer, and I just like how they illustrate the difference here of what I mean when I say, like, I'm really, really into the details of the trailers. Who can tell me why Ixion is bad and Crusader Kings is good? Any ideas? Yes, please.
Crusader Kings has characters on them, humans.
Yeah, more? It's a good one. Yeah, that's one of my major points. The UI shows the management sim part, and the management sim makes you go like, I can be the boss. What more? Yeah, more colorful, but... Sorry?
I prefer Silent. I
Oh,
don't like
yeah? Why?
Crusader Kings. Well, it's very generic, right? Another RTS, probably. And here is some story told.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder what's going on. I want more. And here, well, this is like screenshot from the game. Nothing happening.
At least you see what you get, no?
Yeah, what do you get?
So you see how the whole game experience, like
In Crusader Kings. More?
I have only like, 3 seconds to look at it, so would I even...
Well, 7, like not 3, it's not that bad, but... yes, please.
So actually what the opposite was, is that the right one actually looks like a game.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the left one actually, until you said that there are farms, I have no idea. Maybe I'm just not the type of target audience or whatever. The left one looks a bit like a movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a
Yeah,
cutscene.
the right one looks like a game.
Yeah, well, my personal explanation, any strong opinions? Oh, one more? Yes.
So you can see immediately the genre in Crusader Kings, and it's very readable.
Mm-hmm. But in Ixion you can see the setting, and I'm sorry, space cells. Yes, please?
I think the Crusader Kings is just there's just more things. You can see longer time for Crusader Kings, but still just only one frame. So I didn't know how it looks in the movie. But judging by only one frame, I watch longer the frame on the right.
Yeah, because there's a lot going on. Well, my personal explanation for this one, and yes, time again, target audience. Some people prefer Xion. And that makes a lot of sense. I was talking about dopamine, right? So dopamine comes when people recognize their player fantasy. What Ixion does is they're trying to buy us into their world at the stage where we know nothing about that world, and we go like, why are you telling me this story? Like, why should I care? Is it time to care now? Like, while in Crusader Kings, they're selling the player fantasy of being a ruler of medieval England, because it says England in medieval font, and that's enough to understand, like, hey, wait, I get to be the king. Oh, wow, look, I have a queen as well. I have knights? Nice. So all of this already creates the desire to chase the fantasy. While buying into the world that you don't know, that brings up quite a bit of engagement toll, and maybe it's a bit too early to do it in the first 20 seconds of your trailer. So this is why I prefer stuff like this. Sells way better. Now, if we're talking about how to follow the dopamine, and this is my personal preference, there is a thing called Actalysis Framework. It's written by a guy called Yukai Chao. He's more on the gamification side. It's way simpler than game design, so it's not gonna tax your time as much. But what it is really good for is managing motivation. So I also added literally a quote from ad design that I was making for a city builder game. The coolest part about Actalysis is that it helps you to combine positive and negative, like the sweet and the sour, so it makes for a good taste. In a city builder game, the positive is like, I get to be a mayor. I get to create everything so that everybody's happy about it. The negative in many city builders is that the time is ticking, so it creates urgency. And when you do the sweet and the sour in your ad content, it together creates both the urgency and the desire. So the user feels good about being a creator, and at the same time, they are urged to actually pay for the game. Actalysis could work out for a lot of ads. I really recommend it because it's an easy way of understanding how to actually create that conflict of positive and negative. Now, to sin number 6 is about poor risk management. There is still risk in game trailers, right? Say you make a trailer that looks really much for co-op, team-based shooter, and your game is actually a single-player piece. Well, it's not gonna fly good. And what usually happens here is that the publisher, the developer, everybody sits down and go like, yeah, life is good. We've got 300K for a trailer. Let's make something star-studded. Let's make something that they cannot say no to. Because we can afford mocap, we can do this, we can do that. No, it's not a good idea. Don't make just one for all 300K. Make at least 2. And how do we usually try to tackle the risks of making a bad trailer? And the worst that our industry has come up with is this. This is not a cure. That poor guy there is the one-man army who does editing, animation, and a voiceover with the help of AI because he has a thick accent. While all of those wonderful people are the stakeholders. You know, the biggest trailer production I've been on had 23 official stakeholders. They were ranging from assistant brand manager to vice president. They spanned 6 departments. They all had comment and veto right. If I just took like the time all those wonderful people spent on the game and the salary that was spent on it, we would have 2 trailers, not 1. That's for sure. And this is like, the time spent is not even the worst. The worst is this. And thank you for Marketunist for explaining this. Problem of design by committee is that we make a compromise. Compromises are not creative. Very often not creative. It just becomes very bland and unrelatable. And the bland taste is gonna cost you way more because time again, you're losing the opportunity. You're losing the moment where you could generate dopamine and make people remember you, get their attention. So the cure is easy, and of course you need to build trust for people who make trailers. You ever thought how in Hollywood they have separate directors, producers, whole crews that make the trailers? If director in Hollywood thinks that they're not good enough to make a trailer by themselves and that's a separate skill set, why do we think that our lead artist or game designer is good enough? Trust people. People who make trailers know what they're doing. They've made a few. They give them a bit of freedom. But a bit of freedom, because time again, the risk is to mismanage, the problem is to mismanage the risks. Never make 1 trailer, make at least 2. So build trust and plan in a safe edit. What's a safe edit? I had this one 3 months ago. So we made the main edit. It had a very good close-up of a male butt and a questionable voiceover choice. So what we agreed on is that we make a safe edit for the store. And we were planning for it in the beginning. And this is what allowed us to have the main cut. And the main cut was absolutely loved by the community. So who are the people, what are the functions that determine what's a safe edit? Number 1, anyone who is responsible for publishing it on store. Anyone who monitors that. Because Steam is more or less free, but if you go to Meta, that place is Disneyland. You have to be really, really compliant with what they have. Second, PR managers and diversity officer, because if you do something socially questionable, it's them who's gonna pick up the phone for BBC explaining the situation. And third is the legal and compliance team, because if there is, for instance, copyright infringement question, was it a parody or not, it's them who are gonna face the problem. Just a quick reminder, notice that none of this has vice president of marketing, CEO of the studio, or the office manager. Only people who are actually gonna get under fire in case it goes south. And they are the ones who are gonna face the consequences. Just don't make the life of your colleagues any difficult. Give them a safe edit. And revert to it in case the house is on fire. Now, the final sin, and the biggest one, is actually despair. I know it's hard not to give up. There is no silver bullet for making a trailer. Back when I was a CMO, I was sitting outside the office. It was the day of the release. And that time for that game, like all the stars have aligned. We had the time, we had the budget, we had the team. So I was sitting there and the creative director came to me and said, "Boss, this is the best trailer I've ever made. I'm so happy we're releasing it today." And I went like, great. Remember that feeling. Will anyone be surprised when I say that the trailer flopped, it got 0 interest? Anyone also be surprised that the server laid down and we killed the first weekend of the game? Well, it didn't really go well. Like, really didn't. Well, what do you do when there's 0 interest? Well, you stand up, you dust your knees, you fix your makeup, you do a post-mortem meeting, and then you go and try again. Because we created entertainment and show must go on. Maybe one day we'll get this. It's a nice feeling to have. It's a nice feeling to have. But until then, we are gamers, so we don't give up when we die. we stand up and we'll make one more trailer until it works. Thank you.